Sorry about that, folks. Looks like my microphone wasn't turned on. So let's see if we can get some sound here back. Okay. Let's try to get some of the sound back here. So as I mentioned, this storm is going to be in two phases. The first phase we saw come through Friday night into Saturday morning. We have this gap here across Oklahoma, southeastern Kansas, across parts of southwestern Missouri as well. But that moisture that's way off the coast here, let me clear this and let's turn off the pencil. Look at all this moisture that's right down here across parts of Mexico. This all is going to be coming, it's going to be rapidly transported up into the system. So even though it looks like right now we are there's this gap in the storm, that's not going to last long. This is going to quickly fill in. So as we go towards a Saturday evening, this is at 10 o'clock. Look how quickly this fills in across parts of Kansas and Missouri. Phase one, still here. Here's phase two. And it's phase two that is the more dominant one that's going to bring the greatest impact of snow with this storm. It's going to have a ton of moisture, not necessarily from the Gulf, where we normally get a lot of moisture from storms. Think of your springtime storms. We get a lot of low pressure systems that come through this area. They pull a lot of moisture out of the Gulf, and that sets up the severe weather here across the southeast. We're getting a lot of moisture out of the Pacific, and that's why we're watching that area. And as that low ejects out of the Baja of California through Mexico into West Texas, it is that energy and the upper level jet that's going to help fuel the snowfall rates with this second wave. So let's go ahead and put this in. This is midnight or 2 a.m. on our Sunday morning. We have heavy snow from Amarillo through Oklahoma City, back through St. Louis, Indianapolis. You're definitely in on the snowfall, making its way to Columbus, all the way to Pittsburgh, almost to Philadelphia. I know it's off the map a little bit, but yeah, it's beginning to make that push towards the east as well. Heavy snow, where we see these dark blues, that's snowfall rates of 1 to 2 inches per hour in some locations. So let's continue to evolve this storm. As we go into Sunday morning, 7 a.m., 8 a.m., look at all of this pink that is on the map. If I draw from Little Rock to Memphis to Nashville, up through Frankfort, Kentucky, back to Lynchburg, Virginia, and then back down through Jackson, Mississippi, Alexandria to Shreveport, this is all ice. And this ice is going to accumulate. It's going to be somewhere near a half of an inch to an inch of ice is possible with this particular system. We're also starting to see some mixed precipitation here across northern Arkansas into the boot of Missouri up towards Evansville. So Evansville, some of the model runs earlier in the week had you staying all snow. Some of the later trends that we've seen over the last 24 to 36 hours are beginning to inch a warm nose just a little bit further north. I don't think it goes much further north than the Ohio River, but I can't rule out Evansville not getting into that mixed precipitation. Same thing for Louisville. But those areas just to your north where you're able to stay all snow, that snow is going to pile up because you're getting a lot of moisture pumped up into that atmosphere. Indianapolis, you've got heavy snow going on at this time, as well as Springfield towards Columbus. So let's go ahead and clear this off, and I'm going to shift the map. Let's get done with that. Let's shift the map just a little bit more. Look how extensive this is. I mean, Sunday morning, we're waking up snow to Philadelphia, making its way towards New York City, up towards Ithaca, New York. So this storm is covering a lot of area. And the interesting thing, too, I find here, we look here, Lynchburg. So if you think about the geography, right through here, we have the Appalachian Mountains. So what's happening as we get this low here, we're getting some northeasterly winds on the other side. This cold air that the polar jet brought through on our Friday, temperatures here are probably in the teens and 20s at this point. But we're seeing icing with this situation instead of snow because you got cold air at the surface for places like Charlotte up towards Greenboro, but you have warmer air aloft. So as those raindrops fall through the atmosphere, it's melting. The snowflakes are melting into rain, but then as they get towards the surface where it's much below freezing, you're getting that freezing rain, that icing condition. We call that cold air damming because the mountains aren't going to move that cold air. The warmer air moves in, but the cold air kind of gets stuck at the surface. So that's why this ice storm is going to be very significant across this part of the country. So let's take this further to the midday on our Sunday. So this is 1 p.m. on Sunday. We see the ice. We see, look at that low. This low was all the way down in Mexico on our Friday night. It's made its way all the way into parts of eastern Kentucky by the time we get to midday Sunday. We're still having snow go on here for Evansville, up towards Cincinnati, Columbus, Pittsburgh, and heavy snow with that darker blues right here. We make our way to New York City, up towards Connecticut, even Boston. You're now getting in on that snow up towards Syracuse, Saginaw. You've got some light snow going on. So this is a long, prolonged event. So we've spanned probably about 10 hours in just the last few frames. And if the snowfall rates are a half of an inch to an inch per hour, where we see these dark blues, that's how we're going to get this second wave that moves through. That's really going to pile up the snow. And so as we take this forward to Sunday evening, snow's ended from Indianapolis. We could have some wraparound. This particular model isn't hinting at that. But look here across the Northeast as we get into Albany, up towards Boston, now making its way up towards Bangor, Maine. Heavy amounts of snow. That mixed precipitation making its way up towards New York City. So again, this is an area where snowfall totals earlier in the week, you looked at some of the models here across parts of New Jersey, we were talking somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 inches of snow just to the south and southwest of New York City. Well, now we're seeing this model data come in suggesting that we could transition to a mixed bag of precipitation. Even in southern Jersey, we could be all rain by the time we get to Sunday night. So that's an interesting concept to look at because we've seen a shifting to the north and west of this model, and it's that phasing and the transference of energy from one low to another low that is helping fuel the transition from snow to rain in the latest model runs for places like Delaware up through New Jersey. And we can't forget about our friends down here across parts of Alabama and Georgia, even into South Carolina. We could also be talking about severe weather. Look at this line of thunderstorms that's making its way through Georgia towards Savannah, towards Jacksonville on our Sunday night. This is heavy amounts of rain. We couldn't rule out a rumble or two of thunder, some gusty winds, maybe a spin-up tornado. That's how intense this storm system is and how tightly wrapped up it is with this area of low pressure that is now across parts of eastern Kentucky by Sunday night. So let's continue to evolve this storm. As we go towards midnight, the heaviest precipitation is now beginning to move offshore. Especially, we lose the severe threat here across Georgia. We still have some lingering mountain snows from Charleston up towards Pittsburgh, but the heavy snow is now making its way up through Maine, places like Holton, Augusta, up towards Concord and Burlington. You're on the heavy snow. And as we wake up Monday morning to begin a new work week, we're still getting some wraparound snow across far northern New England. And that really doesn't begin to exit until sometime on our Monday afternoon. So this is a long-lived, long-duration event as the system travels from Texas through Arkansas, the Ohio and Tennessee valleys, into the mid-Atlantic, and eventually exiting out through New England, through Maine, into the Canadian provinces. So this is a storm that we are definitely going to be watching for several hours here. So I want to take a look at some suggested rain or precipitation amounts. So I'm going to pull up the Kuchera amount. So we see a large swath of heavy snow extending from eastern New Mexico through the panhandle of Texas and Oklahoma. Some of this snowfall could be in the range of anywhere from 8 to 12 inches. So I'm going to say that orange and yellow, we're talking 8 to 12 inches. We get here into parts of West Arkansas, probably closer to the 12. But this all extends up through places like Indianapolis. Again, we're going to have to watch this Ohio River area where that transition mixes with some snow and rain. That's going to limit your snowfall. Evansville, you're forecasted about 10 inches of snow right now. A couple days ago, you were more in the 14 to 15 inches of snow. But as this storm continues to move off towards the north and east, and as that low begins to pivot, and we're going to set up the low pressure system here across eastern Kentucky on our Sunday, what that's going to do is it's now going to start tapping into the Atlantic moisture. So we're going to see moisture continue to spread up into New England. And that's why we believe that across parts of Massachusetts, central New York, we could see anywhere from 12 to 18 inches of snow will be common in this area by the time we get to our Monday morning. So a lot of snow is being laid down. Now let me clear this off here. Let's look at another model run. This is the European model. Let's see if the 18Z is not in yet. It has a similar thought to it. A little bit, maybe a little more aggressive with some of the snowfall amounts. But generally in that orange-yellow area, 8 to 12 inches of snowfall. Heaviest amounts here across northern New England, where we could definitely see 12 to 18 inches of snow. So these colors that we're showing here on the map here, just the different gradations of the snowfall amount. I have the legend, it's off to the side. So this basically works from the blues being the least snowy amount, making its way up into the pinks and the reds. That gets to be your 6 to 10 inch amounts here. We get into these yellows, that's generally anywhere 8 to 12 inches of snow. And then we start to get into those brighter yellows. That's when we get around a foot of snow. And we get into those greens, that's 12 to 18 inches of snow likely for those areas. So we're waiting on the 18Z run of the Euro. The 12Z is probably a better run. So in some of these models, because more dropsons are sent, weather balloons are sent up at the 0Z and 12Z observations, they can gather more data. These intermediate runs like at 6Z and 18Z, we don't get those weather balloons being released at those times. Weather balloons are typically released twice a day. And so that's where why you might see some fluctuation in the data between, let's say, a 6Z run maybe has a little bit heavier snowfall amount because it's an intermediate run. It's really relying on what the 0Z had, and it's extrapolating it forward. And so that's why sometimes you'll see a 12Z run kind of back off. It doesn't mean that the storm is weakening or that there's been a change in the system per se, but what's happening is we get more weather balloons being released at 0 and 12Z. We get more points of data to analyze and move into the computers to generate these forecasts. So if you study these weather models, and I use Synoptic Weather, I also use another one called Pivotal Weather. Both are great services, but that's why you might see some fluctuation. It doesn't mean the storm is weakening or strengthening from model run to model run. It's just the way the data is gathered and how much data is gathered at that model run. Now, you probably have seen some earlier maps in the week if you were on social media. The GFS. The GFS. Look at this. Look at this one. 25 inches of snow here across parts of eastern Kentucky. Almost a foot plus, 8-9 inches around Nashville. Much further south and east with its heaviest snow axis. Well, why aren't we going with this model? Well, for 3 days now, this particular model, the GFS, which is the American model, has been an outlier. The other models, we can go through those again. We can look at them. We can look at the European Heavier snows a little bit further to the north. We can look at the Rufus A model. Heaviest snow a little bit further to the north. Now this one gets a little tainted here. It's buying into a little bit more. Oh, that's the 12Z. Let's look at the 18Z. There we go. That's the one I wanted. Yeah. So there's the heavy snow axis there. Let's see. Does this one have it? Let me flip to another one real quick here. Here, I will let you look at the snowy barn for a moment while I switch screens. So all I'm doing right now is I'm just pulling up a different, I'm going over to Pivotal Weather. Again, it's one of the sources I like using a lot. Let me just load my parameters. I'm sorry I didn't have that ready. So let's look here. Okay, so this is the Icon, the German model. This is the 18Z run, so this was the mid-afternoon run. Look at this one. It too has that heaviest snow axis just north of the Ohio River through southern Illinois, southern Missouri, back through central Ohio into western Pennsylvania and into the northeast. So when we have all of our models agreeing, and then we have this one. Oh, this one, the GFS. Look how much it shifts so much further south. And if we remember here, where it's forecasting 20 inches of snowfall across eastern Kentucky, let's jump back here to our simulated radar. Remember what we saw when we walked through what was happening. So I'm going to back it up. Here comes the storm. Let it load. There we go. So yeah, we're getting that initial batch of heavy snow. Again, this is round one that we're seeing coming through Kentucky. No doubt putting down 6 to 8 inches of snow across the Commonwealth. I don't believe that's an issue. It's when we get towards Saturday night into early Sunday. Look what happens. We start to see that mixing happen. Places like Lexington, up towards Frankfort. We start to see the ice across places like Bowling Green, down towards Somerset. We go overnight Sunday. That icing is now moving further north. We're getting some mixing up towards Louisville. So the GFS wants to keep this entire area all snow. And we're saying that, and all the other models are in agreement that that's not going to happen. Could this solution last? Most definitely. But it's the outlier at this point. So they always say that trend is your friend, and when you look at weather models and weather forecasting. So we want to stay in that zone. What are a majority of the models telling us? Can't completely discount this as a possible solution, but right now it doesn't seem to be the most likely of solutions. So that's another thing that we kind of look at here as we do our weather forecasting is where are the models kind of agreeing and where they're not. And again, if I switch back to my other map here, I look at Pivotal Weather here. There we go, Pivotal Weather. The GFS is just so far south with that particular system. It's producing 20 inches of snow across eastern Kentucky, and that's just likely not going to happen. So let's look at some other things that are going to happen. Let me switch back over to Synoptic Weather, which is one of my preferred sources to use. So as we mentioned, the snow is going to be long-lasting, long duration. The other thing I want to look at is down here where we see all that pink, that icing, that ice that will occur. Let's take a look at the ice accumulations here. Pull this up here. So this is by Sunday morning. Let's say we're waking up 7 a.m. Sunday morning. Where it's been the heaviest and most consistent with the ice throughout the day on Saturday into our Sunday, we could be talking areas here just south of Memphis, south of Little Rock, Shreveport, over towards Alexandria. We could see anywhere from a half an inch to an inch of ice. This is going to be devastating ice. People down in this part of the country, they're not used to driving on icy roads. It's going to basically paralyze traffic for most of your Sunday, probably into Monday as well. Even across parts of Texas, as we get back towards Dallas and Austin, over towards Tyler, Texas, we could still be talking about a half of an inch of ice in some locations. So this is, again, going to be very problematic. It's going to make travel difficult. If you're flying in and out of anywhere across northern Texas, across Arkansas, Sunday, expect delays, expect travel delays if you're traveling in this area. And we haven't even talked about the Carolinas yet, because the icing event is just getting started here. But by Sunday morning, we're already up to about a sixth of an inch of ice, a quarter of an inch of ice. And as we go through the day on our Sunday, that ice really starts to pile up across parts of Western Virginia, down into Western North Carolina. Remember the GFS? Oh, our GFS friend that had all the heavy snow here across Eastern Kentucky. All the other models are saying you're going to transition to mixed precipitation. You're going to transition to some ice by the time we get to Sunday evening. So those are things that we're watching for. So we got the heavy snow basically north of this line. We're going to have widespread 12 inches plus through this area. Maybe south of I-70 is where we're going to see that 12 inches plus. As we make our way into the northeast, we're going to be talking about snowfall that's going to accumulate 12 to 18 inches. So definitely there's going to be a sharp cutoff of where we see the heavy snow and where we're going to see the ice. And then, as we mentioned, we go back to the simulated radar. Look, Sunday night, we're talking about heavy storms across parts of Georgia. Heavy amounts of rain as well, making its way through Augusta towards Columbia, eventually over to Charleston and Myrtle Beach. So when we look at that precipitation, by the time we get towards Monday morning, we're waking up and those storms have rolled through. Places down along the Gulf, through the parishes of Louisiana, 1 to 2, possibly 3 inches of rain. Make our way over towards Mobile, Alabama, another 1 to 2 inches of rain. Atlanta, maybe up to an inch of rain. Heavy amounts of rain across the southern tier as well, with the passage of this low pressure system and the system as it makes its way to the east. Now I want to jump up here too, because why are we seeing such big snowfall totals? Look at places like Indianapolis, 0.7 inches of liquid precipitation. That's what this model's telling us, the QPF, liquid precipitation. In a normal snowstorm, you'd say 10 inches of snow for every inch of liquid precipitation. So on a 10 to 1 ratio, we'd be looking at about 7 inches of snow. As we get down towards Evansville, about 10 inches of snow. But because of the cold temperatures, and let's see if I can do, hold on, let me get back here. Is this one? No, I don't want that. Where is it? Okay, I don't see it right now. Look at the temperatures here across this area. Oh, there we are. So when this snow is falling, when everything's happening, temperatures here across most of this area are in the single digits by the time we get to Monday morning. Let's even back it up during the day on our Sunday, when the snow is really falling, midday. Temperatures here are in the teens across a good chunk of the area. So instead of a 10 to 1 ratio, we are looking more at a 15 to 1 ratio, a 17 to 1 ratio. So if we take this back towards Monday morning, when the precipitation has ended, we look at the total QPF. Using a 17 to 1 ratio, That's why you're seeing weather maps that are going to say 17 times 0.7, 11.9 inches, almost a foot of snow for places like Indianapolis. 14, 15 inches possible down towards Evansville because the snow ratios are much higher than they typically are because the colder air is going to make this more of a fluffier, lighter snow. That's why we see the heavy snow across southern Missouri, where we see QPFs of about 0.8. Again, that 8 to 12, 14 inches of snow is very likely where we see this green color. As we get into the Northeast, places like Boston, almost 1.5 inches of. Oh, sorry, I need to bring this on screen for you. Here we get up into the Northeast, Massachusetts, 1.4 inches of liquid precipitation. Again, taking that. Now, we're not going to have the cold temperatures here. So let's look at those temperatures. So when that snow is falling, because we have the warmth of the Atlantic Ocean for places like Boston, out along the Cape, down towards Providence. So let's look at this. When the snow is falling in its heaviest on Sunday, yeah, temperatures are in the single digits and 20s, but look how they are warming. So that snow event is not going to be a constant 17, 15 to 1 ratio. By the time the heaviest snow is getting there, we're more up towards our likely 10 or 12 to 1 snow ratios. So that's why we're showing temperatures here, snowfall here, somewhere in the neighborhood of 18 inches. 12 to 18 inches is likely with this particular storm. Let's see, what else did I want to talk about tonight? Well, let's stay on this temperature map. I'm gonna stay on my temperature map here. And I'm gonna switch to the European model. The European model does so much better here in the winter. But look, we're waking up Monday morning, Sunday night into Monday. Look at the core of this cold air up towards Bemidji. These are actual temperatures forecasted. 23 to below zero. Green Bay, you're at 3 below. Down toward Milwaukee at 1. Across Indiana, where the snow's beginning to exit by Sunday evening, you're in the single digits across most of the Central Plains, the Ohio Valley. Here's that warm nose right through here. As it made its way through eastern Kentucky, remember, we thought we were going to get 20 inches of snow here. Temperatures are going to be in the 30s. Probably not going to happen. But as we go through our night Monday, after the snow is ended, look at how the temperatures just plummet. 8 below for Indianapolis, 5 below down towards Evansville. And that cold is going to stay around. Because this is during the day, midday on our Monday. Temperatures still below zero for a good portion of Indiana and northern Illinois. And it stays below zero Monday night, overnight into Tuesday. Then the core of that moves off towards the east, northeast. Pennsylvania, you're in the heart of the cold weather. Temperatures 10 degrees below zero. But then we have another clipper that's going to move through the northern plains into the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley Wednesday into Thursday, providing a reinforcement of cold air. So where we have that deep snowpack already in place, that's going to allow temperatures to really plummet and drop. So by Wednesday morning, we could have another round of temperatures approaching 10 or 15 degrees below zero for a good portion of the country. So that cold pattern is going to lock in for a while. Even as we go towards next weekend, we are still seeing many areas sub-zero and really not getting out of the teens for a good while. We start to see some warmth building here in the lee side of the Rockies as we approach the new month. But where that snowpack lays down the greatest from Oklahoma through Illinois up into the Northeast, widespread single digits and teens for a long time to come. So hopefully that's answered some of your questions. I don't see any other questions in the chat. Right now it's almost 8 o'clock Eastern time, or it's a little past 8 o'clock Eastern time. So we're waiting right now for the 0Z model runs. As I mentioned, that's a big model run. Weather balloons were released at 7 p.m. Eastern across the country, especially in the heart of the storm. So if I go back, where's the heart of the storm? Let's look at our high res. There we go. We're starting to get some high res data in. So at 8 o'clock. So we're really studying what's going on here, as well as what's going on right here, because this is where our moisture is going to be focused. That's going to provide that second wave Saturday. All of that moisture is going to be transported to the north and east during our day on our Saturday, and that's going to help provide. So we're going to see what's going on here, what's going on in the storm right now. Is it developing as we anticipated? We're going to wait for those 0Z model runs to come in. We may go live again later tonight. I'm not sure. Once those model runs come in, they generally take about 3.5 hours. So it will be a late live stream if we go live again. It'd probably be after 10 o'clock Eastern time. But yeah, that's our plan. We're going to continue to keep you informed of what's going on. Are there any changes? Right now, if I'm a betting man and I'm looking at the total snowfall map that we showed, there we go. Let's take this out. I want 18. I don't think this map is changing much. Now the amounts, don't worry about the numbers. I think the axis of heaviest snow from the panhandle of Texas through Oklahoma, central Missouri, Indiana, Illinois, Ohio, into the Northeast, I think that axis is pretty much set. Could there be wiggle up and down? Yes, most definitely. But right now, that seems to be the path of the storm, and we're going to continue to watch that. We'll continue to bring you the latest information. If there are changes in the 0Z, we'll let you know. We'll keep you informed Friday night into Saturday, and even into Sunday as this storm makes its way into the Northeast. I mean, 20 inches of snow is possible for a good chunk of this area. So we're going to continue to watch that. So hope you've liked this live stream. If you do, let us know in the chat. Share this with your friends. Like it. We enjoy bringing the weather to you. We're not the most fanciest thing, but we do what we can. We like talking to people. We like engaging. So next time, if you're in one of our live chats, go ahead and leave us a comment. Let's start the conversation. We'll talk to you real soon. We'll see you.